I've never made a fortune, and it's probably too late now, but I don't worry about that much, 'cause I'm happy anyhow. And as I go along life's journey, I'm breathing better than I sowed. I'm drinking from my saucer, because my cup is overflowed. I haven't got a lot of riches, and sometimes the going's tough, but I've got a friend in Jesus, and that makes me rich enough. And I thank God for His blessings on me and the mercies He's bestowed. I'm drinking from my saucer, 'cause my cup is overflowed. If God gives me strength and courage when the way grows steep and rough, I'll not ask for others' blessings, 'cause I'm already blessed enough. And may I never be too busy to help share His load. Then I'll keep drinking from my saucer, 'cause my cup is overflowed. And I'll keep drinking from my saucer, 'cause my cup is overflowed.
People, and they're going to win. They're going to win. And when this thing's all been said and done, they're going to enjoy the Lord for 1,000 years in Jerusalem. They're going to be brought from around the world, and they're going to control the world's economic system. The Jews will control everything in the millennial kingdom. And all nations will come from around the world, and they'll be begging, trying to find a Jew. Can you tell me about the Lord? Can you take me up to the house of God? this whole thing going to be turned. And everything God ever intended for Israel, then it's all going to come true. I got a sermon, man. I've been wanting to preach this thing for a long time about all that stuff, and it's astounding how God's going to turn the tables on the enemy. So in Exodus 15, what you've got here is the children of Israel have come through the Red Sea. They don't have a single weapon, nothing. They're totally helpless. And Pharaoh, his whole economic, he's lost his firstborn. And there's come a cry over all the land of Egypt because everybody, they may be somebody in the house, and the son's the firstborn, the daddy's the firstborn, the grandpa's the firstborn. There'd be 3 deaths in that one house. The devastation. And so Pharaoh gathers up all of his army to go chase down these Jews because he's been destroyed. He needs that slave labor. All through human history, there's been a whole lot of damage done through cheap labor. Oh, yeah. That's what's going on in this country. Cheap labor. And trying to depress the wages so the rich can get richer while the poor get poorer. It's always been that way. And that was the reason behind slavery, cheap labor. And they about starved them, they didn't give them nothing hardly. And it's just cruel what's going on in the name of making money. So that's what Pharaoh, what's behind him. His kingdom is destroyed if he don't get these Jews back to do his work. So God delivers them. He opens up the Red Sea. He sends a mighty blast from his nostrils. That's how God describes it. And that's God likening himself to a warrior. A lot of things in the Bible that describe God are metaphors. And but anyhow, so the Lord sent an east wind. He opened up the Red Sea, dried it, and they went over on dry ground. When they got to the other side, they began to sing the song of Moses. And it says here in verse number 1, then sang Moses and the children of Israel this song unto the Lord, spake saying, I will sing unto the Lord, triumph gloriously, the horse and his rider hath he thrown into the sea. The Lord is my strength and song. He's become my salvation. He is my God. I will prepare him an habitation. My father's God, and I will exalt him. Well, later on they're going to prepare God a habitation in the tabernacle. How did God prepare himself a habitation? He did when he saved you, so he could live in you. You're God's habitation. We are God's temple. And almost every scripture that talks about ye are the temple of God, it's not talking about one person. It's talking about ye. That's all of us. We are the temple of the Holy Ghost, all of us together. Then he goes down in verse number 3. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. Pharaoh's chariots and his host hath he cast into the sea. His chosen captains also are drowned in the Red Sea. The depths have covered them. They sink into the bottom as a stone. Thy right hand, O Lord, is become glorious in power. Thy right hand, O Lord, hath dashed in pieces the enemy. Anytime in the Bible you see the right hand, that's representing the power of God, the offensive power of God. The left hand's always defense, the defensive side of God. Verse 7, and the greatness of thine excellency, thou hast overthrown them that rose up against thee. Thou sentest forth thy wrath and consumed them as stubble. Now, this is an amazing thing. The Lord has put up with this a long time. They've been down in Egypt for 430 years. We don't know how long they were in slavery, but a long time. So they're in slavery for hundreds of years, and God's put up with this thing. And for most of those years, Israel did not turn to God. They were in idolatry. And then when Moses was born, there were some people began to call on God, begging God for deliverance. God allowed Pharaoh to make their task very severe. They served with rigor. And so they were in a desperate situation. So the Lord's going to raise up Moses. And his people's going to cry out to him, and God's going to deliver them. But he waited a long time. God's waited a long time to take care of Iran. Long time. They've been fighting us since 1979. Those of you old enough to remember the days of Jimmy Carter, They took a bunch of our hostages at the American Embassy and held them for hundreds of days. And they've never had to pay for that. And all through these years, they've used their proxies, and they have put, they've made weapons to kill our men, and through Hezbollah, Hamas, and these Houthis, they have killed a lot of American soldiers. Now, they tag it at 600 and something, but I heard a man today say it's more like 2,000 American soldiers, and Iran has never paid a price for that. They've never answered for that. All this havoc, all these hundreds and thousands of missiles that's rained down on Israel for years, they've never paid a price for that. Because we didn't have anybody in Washington that had the courage to do something about it. If America's not going to do it, when Israel would have done something about it, we got these American presidents that keep holding them back. Because they are dependent on us to a great degree. Their weapons come from us. And they're about blackmailed by the American president. And if he's for them, it's good. If he ain't, it's bad. And for the past 4 years, they've been held down. And so God put the right man in the White House at the right time. And God's orchestrated all these events. If this war had not gone in such a supernatural, God initiated way, there'd be a lot of dead Israelis right now. I mean, soldiers. There's not one plane that's gone down. I don't think Iran's even got one plane off the ground. And they had a big air force. They've got 70 defense systems that Israel destroyed, every one of them. Last October, they took care of all of the 300 and 400 defense systems of Russia. This thing's been planned for many, many, many years. They've been infiltrating Iran. I'm telling you, the Mossad makes our FBI and CIA look like kids. They ain't never been a secretive group like the Mossad, but they sharp. And I mean, they are determined. Why? Because their survival's at stake. We'd be a whole lot more on the ball at stake. But we got all these thousands of miles between us. Them Israelis are right there. And they're right there at Syria, Lebanon. They're right there at Egypt. They're surrounded by Arab nations. Now, since 1948, the war 48, 56, 67, and 73, just those, Israel has been outnumbered 40 to 1. They're outnumbered right now 9 to 1, just Iran. They've always been David, and the enemy has always been Goliath. They've never had a fair fight, but they've always prevailed because God's hands on them. The way Israel's Mossad lured Iran's generals to their death illustrates the blessing of God. Where does all this technology come from? Why didn't Iran have it? Why didn't Iraq have it? Why didn't all those Muslims have it? Where's their God's blessing? I tell you, they got what they got, them Jews, because God's given them supernatural intellect. They got a brain. They got brain power. And God has mightily given them the ability of technology. So I'm talking tonight on Israel's technology tricks. Think about this. You can put 75 nations of Israel in the geographic boundaries of Iran. Nations of Israel. Iran is twice the size of the state of Texas. It's bigger than the state of Alaska. You could put 3 Californias in the country of Iran. They're nothing but mountains and deserts. It would be just about impossible to go in and invade that place with ground forces without losing a great size of your army or a lot of casualties. So Israel has 9.5 million people, and Iran's got 92 million. So this being a very difficult strategic position, when you're in that kind of a situation, you got to outsmart your enemy. You got to cut their legs off so they can't walk. What Israel did, they kneecapped them at the start. The great power of technology is they done it at the first. And they had this concerted effort of such strategic brain power and ability. And they brought all this together. They've been infiltrating Iran for years. They've got a lot of the Iranian people are against this Islamic jihad Nazi government. And so they have gained favor. And a lot of the knowledge they've got in the Iranian people. They have got their moles in upper echelon of that government. They know what's going on. They know where every general's at. They know where the mullahs are. They know where Khomeini is. I mean, they have laid this thing out. And when Trump got to be president, he gave them 60 days. All of their planning has come together after all these years. And they moved in a distinct way. After God destroyed Pharaoh and his army, the children of Israel sung the song of Zion. Let me read again. The Lord is my strength and song. He's become my salvation. He's my God. I'll prepare him an habitation. My father's God, I'll exalt him. The Lord is a man of war. The Lord is his name. What those Muslims don't understand over there, they're not fighting Israel, they're fighting God. When you're fighting God, he puts his power on you. And he gives you abilities. And he shuts stuff down. And he sends in the host of heaven. He sends in the angels of God to fight for his people. Deuteronomy 20 verse 4, for the Lord your God is he that goeth with you to fight against your enemies, to save you. In the last days, God has made promises to Israel. And here's some of them. In Isaiah 54:15, behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather against thee shall fall for thy sake. Now, we claim this, and it's true. You know, all Bible verses have at least about 3 different applications. So this is a glorious application. But this application is primarily to the people of Israel. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and the righteousness of me, saith the Lord. Now the question is, why did God allow the Holocaust? He allowed that because of Israel's rejection. But in World War I, God prepared the land for Israel. World War II, God prepared the people for the land. And God's been bringing them back. If you listen, it's like Winston Churchill said, they asked me, he believed in God. He said the survival of the Jew. That's what he said. God has a time frame. He's got a time frame when he chastises his people, but then he's got a time frame when he's going to bring about the promises. And the way God's going to do this thing, and he's doing it right now, the whole world has got their mouth open. They can't believe what's going on. I mean, what Israel been doing, this world can't even grasp it. What America did last night, I guarantee you, China, Russia is taking notes, buddy. But if they know we got somebody in Washington, D.C. mean business. Isaiah 43:5, fear not, I'm with thee. I'll bring thy seed from the east, gather thee from the west. For your sake I've sent to Babylon. I brought down their nobles. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me to the nations which spoiled you. For he that toucheth you touches the apple of his eye. Zechariah 2 and verse 8. Listen to Zechariah 12:3. I'm going to get in all this stuff in a minute. But I want to establish to you that God is going to fight for Israel. We're seeing the beginnings, no doubt, of the last days right now. I mean, they've been in motion. But right now there's been a pivot. They've been a move. In the book of Zechariah 12:3, and in that day will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone for all people. What's the United Nations doing? They're all gathered together right now against Israel. They're condemning them, and they're condemning us. We got a party in this country. Half of this country is condemning what the president just done. After all these years of bloodshed, all these years of proxies, after 46 years of crying every day, death to America, death to Israel, we're going to take up the great Satan. They're developing intercontinental ballistic missiles, not to hit Israel. They don't need a missile of that power to hit the United States. If they have that intercontinental ballistic missile, they can hit the West Coast and the East Coast, and they put a nuclear warhead on that thing, they can kill millions. That's what they're up to. And they've been planning this a long time. While these nuts in America hate God, hate Christians, and hate Donald Trump because he represents the Word of God, and I ain't saying he's saved, but he represents Americanism. He represents free enterprise. He represents a strong defense. He is the gorilla in the room. They can't do nothing with him. He got too much power. God's blessed. They hate him. And in that day, I'll make Jerusalem a burdensome stone. Ain't nobody in America a friend of Israel, to Israel but America. For all the people, all that burden themselves with it, shall be cut to pieces. The earth shall be gathered against it. That's coming. In that day, saith the Lord, I'll smite every horse in the Bible with astonishment. Now, always the horse. When these prophets looked down the road and seen tanks, they didn't know how to describe that. Book of Revelation, they talk about horses with fire running out of their nose. They didn't know how to describe an airplane. Horses represent the great weapons of war, like a tank. His rider with madness. And I will open mine eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. It shall come to pass in that day, I'll seek to destroy all the nations that come against. Zechariah 14:2, I'll gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. Half of the city shall go into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Now listen to this. This is what's going to happen. You got the tribulation period. The tribulation period does not begin at the rapture. It begins when the Antichrist signs a peace treaty with the nation of Israel. There could be years go by between the rapture and the beginning of the tribulation. Now, when it starts, 3.5 years that the Antichrist is going to come to power. And I believe that's the battle of Gog and Magog, and the Muslims and that crowd, Russia and their allies, have got to be taken care of. And they're going to be taken care of by the Western powers, by European powers, and the Antichrist is going to take credit as he defends the nation of Israel. And that's when they're going to sign that peace treaty with him, because he's come to their aid and took care of that Muslim problem, and now they can build the third temple. And the battle of Gog and Magog could even be between the rapture and the beginning of the tribulation period. But the Antichrist is going to make a peace treaty with the nation of Israel. 3.5 years later, he's going to break that treaty. And that's when the beginning of the great tribulation starts. The time of Jacob's trouble. A time there's never been on this earth and never shall be. Now, we're getting to the end of that 3.5 years of the great. All the tribulation ain't the great tribulation. The last 3.5 years is the great tribulation. Then shall the Lord go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fought in the day of battle. Boy, the promises of God is going to be with these people. Listen, the Spirit of David, God is going to give them unbelievable power in that day. Listen to this. David illustrated this. Again, the Jews always been outnumbered. Zechariah 12:5. In the tribulation period, listen, and the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be my strength, the Lord of hosts, their God. Verse 6, in that day will I make the governors of Judah like an hearth of fire among the wood. What does a hearth of fire do with wood? It burns it up. Like a torch of fire in a sheaf. What would a torch of fire do? In a field of wheat full of sheaves, it'd burn it to the ground. They shall devour all the people round about on the right hand and on the left, and Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. God is going to make those Israelis, every one of them, like David, full of power and full of grace. In that day the Lord will defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. And he that is feeble, that's the weakest among them. Now listen to this. We know this is going to happen because God said it. What God says is going to come to pass. Zechariah 14:8, in that day shall the Lord defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem. He that is feeble among them in that day shall be as the house of David. The most feeble. As the house of David, and the house of David shall be as God, the angel of the Lord before him. It shall come to, listen, in that day God's going to let them fight, but the angels are going to be empowering them. The Holy Ghost's going to be empowering them. Verse 9, God always loves to use people. He loves to use man. He loves to use humanity. That's God's way. And he loves to empower them to do his will. It shall come to pass in that day, I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. So the Lord's going to intervene, make the feeble, the weakest of the people, mighty. He's going to make them Samson, the feeble man, powerful. God's going to take care of the devil, all he's done for 6,000 years to wipe out that Jew. Zechariah 12:10, I feel like running. I'll pour upon the house of David, the inhabitants of Jerusalem, the spirit of grace, hallelujah, and supplications. They shall look upon him whom they have pierced. Who is the one that they pierced? Have I got a Bible reader in here? Have I got a witness? You got it, Jesus Christ. They shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, shall be in bitterness for him as one that's in bitterness for his firstborn. So Israel has a population of 9.5 million. A lot of those are Arabs, and there's about 8 million Jews. Finally, there's more Jews in Israel than in America. The attack on Israel, October 7, 2023, big mistake. Big mistake. Now, Sean Hannity says this all the time. If you were to take 1,200 plus people that were slaughtered on that fateful day, October 7th, 2023, the Jewish Pearl Harbor, the Jewish September 11th, here's what Hannity said. He said, if we lost in comparison to the overall population of America, we would have lost 40,000 people. When they lost over 1,200 in comparison to their population size, we would have to lose 40,000 to be in the same percentage to our size. Put that into perspective. October the 7th, 2023. Watch this now. We're seeing the devil at work in this country. All this anti-Semitism, it's being taught on the college campuses. Kids go to school to get a degree, to go work somewhere, and come out a bunch of Stalinists, bunch of Nazis, God haters, anti-Semitism all over this country. Democrat Party is full of it. Full of it. Outright, despicable enemies of the nation of Israel. And there's even a few Republicans that way. But the Democrats way outnumbered. So their design, what that was designed to put such fear and such terror in the hearts of the Israeli people that they would flee their country because they would be afraid to raise their children and their grandchildren. You think about the failure. And I was talking about Mossad. What happened to Israel? They went to sleep on the wheel. They should have known, but they didn't. They didn't have intelligence. That's the biggest intelligence failure that I've ever heard of in the history of Israel. They dropped the ball, and they got invaded. Their people kidnapped. They raped women. They burned children. They put babies in microwaves and ovens and burned them like the Holocaust. Man, I'm telling you, there's such fury. Now, so all of that was done to strike such fear in the people. What's Satan doing right now? Trying to strike such fear in the heart of our law enforcement, us, So that this bunch that Joe Biden let in here by the millions, seeds of anarchy. So we won't get them out. And they a bunch of sorry politicians who'll let them vote in elections. And they vote out the common man. That's the plan, to take over this country. Oh, think about this now. So we see the providence of God in the power of the Israeli intelligence, unmatched anywhere in the world. Think about this. October the 7th set the stage. What set the stage for a lot of our smart bombs? Necessity. Now I'll say that America, those Jews have so much intelligence, but we've got so much more money. And we got bombs that are, think about this. Israel's got them because they got them from us. Now some of this stuff they come up with, but a lot of stuff they're shooting over there, they got it from us. They can shoot a missile hundreds and even thousands of miles away into an apartment, put it in one window, and that bomb only devastate that one room and leave the building standing. You talk about precise, but this stuff's unbelievable. But here's what Israel done. They're calculating this thing. God's given wisdom. And the blueprint was that if they're going to take Iran, because Iran's got all these defense systems. They got an air force. They got a lot of ability. They had it. And what they got to do is to take out the proxies. What has got October the 23rd or October the 7th, 2023, is when Israel took care of Hamas. How are they going to fight Israel if Hamas is sending all these weapons into Israel? What about Hezbollah in Lebanon? What about Syria? Syria has been dehorned. Assad is gone. Syria's even letting Israel fly over and even land on their territory. A couple years ago, that would have never happened. Hezbollah has been diminished. Hamas has been diminished. The Houthis have greatly been diminished. And Israel has, with great precision, taken care of all the proxies so that then when they went in to take care of Iran, they wouldn't be getting shot down from all these other places. Why? Hezbollah had thousands of missiles that they got from Iran. The Hamas had all these missiles they got from Iran. And so did Syria. And so did the Houthis. They've been shooting at us. They've been trying to shut down the Red Sea. Since October the 7th, Israel has neutralized the terrorist threat of Hamas and Syria. October 2024 is when Israel took out all the Russian air defense systems, the 300s and 400s, and a few weeks ago they took out all 70 air defense systems. It had to be so regulated and timed they couldn't miss nothing, because all the abilities of the Iranians to shoot down their planes and to kill their pilots, not one pilot's been shot down. Not one plane. I don't even think that Iran's even got one plane off the ground. How do you explain all this stuff? I'll tell you, they went in there in perhaps the most dominant, decisive show of military force of this century. The IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, managed to gain superiority in the first 3 days of the strikes, have been able to control the airspace of Iran without consequence. None of this could have happened. You got all these air defense systems shooting up all these missiles. Israel's going in there just like there's no army in Iran. They're just going in there like a turkey shoot. Man, they're going in there like took my boys and my daughter up to Cane Creek one time, and an old boy up there, good friends of the family, went up to where he had spring coming out, had a big barrel, and in that barrel was just a bunch of fish. We was fishing out of that barrel. Boy, my youngest thought that's something, catching all them fish. That's exactly what's happening in Iran. A country that can't defeat Israel, but they could have already killed thousands of Israeli soldiers had they not totally neutralized the threat. Today, since June the 13th, 2025, Israel has not even hardly even been engaged. How's this possible? How'd they do that? How'd they get total air superiority? That's unheard of. We're learning some stunning details about how things got to this point. In the early hours of the war, it's reported that dozens of top Iranian military leaders were taken out in one single missile strike. Here is a stroke of genius. The subterfuge used to get all of these Iranian generals into a single bunker is something you'd read in a spy novel. Ain't no way this can be true, but it is. Israel created a fake phone call for 20 members of the Iranian Air Force, their senior staff, their officers, calling them to a specific bunker in Tehran. That meant there was no one to give the order to fly or to fire the initial salvo of 1,000 ballistic missiles at one time. Did y'all know that? Iran was ready to set off 1,000 ballistic missiles at one time. Now, David Sling and all those defense systems that they've got, some of it's ours, that the Iron Dome and all that, they could have took out a bunch of them. Hundreds would have got through. There could be thousands or tens of thousands of Israelis dead right now. So, what happened? Instead of shooting off those 100,000 ballistic missiles, there was not a single general in the Air Force to give the command. Stop and think about how effective that is. The added bonus for the Israelis was that the Iranian military leadership was essentially crippled from the moment of Israel's first strike against the world's top sponsor of terrorism. Mossad had used falsified communications through Iranian back channels. Boy, you know about smart. Mossad got their back channels. That's supposed to only be known to your own fighting forces. They go through the back channels and call a meeting that will successfully lured in the entire senior leadership of Israel's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, or the Aerospace Force, including their commanding general, his deputies, his chief technical personnel, to go to this meeting in a fortified bunker outside of Tehran. Mossad's Israel's intelligence service, Mossad, infiltrated Iranian back channels and placed 20 different fake calls to these highest up of our RGC Air Force leaders. These calls instructed them again to meet in a reinforced bunker in Tehran and order none of them questioned. They didn't even question it. It is safe to speculate that Mossad agents were on the ground to confirm their arrival because shortly after they rained down hell on that crowd, took them all out. As a blessing to Israel, Iran's command and control structure was crippled in almost a day. The mullahs could not muster a military response. By then, the Israeli Defense Forces had severely crippled their ballistic missile capabilities and destroyed many of their planes. Mossad snuck in. Now listen to this. Here's how smart they are. They snuck in drone parts. And right before this attack, they put them together. And they're in strategic positions. They know where to go. And right when this war started, they used them drones to take out a bunch of them generals. Man, this ain't but 20th Air Force here, the higher echelon. They took out, you seen the other day when they took out the supreme leader of the military and another man stepped in 4 days later, they killed him. They're taking out all their officers. They're in total chaos. What would have happened if all this wouldn't happen? I don't think Iran could have won, but how many would Israel lost? And they'd have dragged us into this thing on a ground force, and then there you go. While initial barrages caused damage in Israel, including tragically killing civilians, drew to Iran's indiscriminate salvos of missiles on houses, on hospitals. Thereafter, the civilians in Israel only fires against military targets. This is spectacular and nothing short of divine intervention. From the start, they've owned the skies. They're over there right now, they've done 12 big major bombings today. I'll tell you one thing, them Iranians ain't got no sense. And the poor Iranian people are having to suffer. Vast majority of the Persians, that's who they are, Persians. That's the people of Cyrus the Great. Those people were westernized when the Shah of Iran was overthrown, 1979. And these bunch of Nazi Muslims took over. Not only does that Shiite Muslim want to kill all Americans and all Jews. They want to kill Saudi Arabia. They want to kill all them other Muslims because they are Sunni. They want to kill everybody in a Shiite. That's the plan of the Iranians. That's why Saudi Arabia don't pay no attention to what they say publicly. They're all having a big victory celebration because we took out them nuclear, because they were the ones that are going to be bombed by them. It's one thing to place fake calls through Iranian back channels. It's another thing to have every general who answer the phone call fall for the ruse. How did this happen? The answer lies in how antiquated and authoritarian Israel's military structure is and remains. When you serve at the behest of the Iranian dictator who tortures and kills people who step out of line, do y'all understand? If they hear about a little old girl being on a bus and her body's not covered as much as they want to, they'll stop that bus, drag her off, and kill her. That's who we're dealing with. When the call came in to head to the bunker, the generals blindly listened. Unlike the United States military structure, where junior officers are trained and placed in a defined, high, redundant chain of command, Israel's top brass are insular loyalists. With these Air Force generals out of the way, chaos ensued. That means the general officers are not informed of anything. You take out the senior officers, you ain't got nobody to command because they're so afraid of an uprising that they, like Saddam Hussein, they rule in panic. One time Saddam Hussein had 2,000 of his best generals killed because he's paranoid that somebody's going to take him over. He just killed the best generals he had. That's why there's a paper tiger when we fought. I'm talking about they flee when nobody's even chasing them. The Mossad infiltrated Iran for years. Many allies among the Iranian people helped them. And it just gets me how they smuggled in these drones, put them together, shot them off. I ain't read about them. One of them didn't get killed. Man, this ain't even a firefight. Why? Because God's fighting for Israel. That's why. They knew how to trick the generals. They know what the effects would be. They had enough confidence to risk a full-scale war. A full-scale war. Because God forbid, if Iran ever got a nuclear weapon, they would hold the whole world blackmail. They would control all the oil that goes through the Strait of Hormuz. They'd control everything over there with the threat of nuclear weapons. And people know they're crazy enough to use them. Leviticus 26:8, 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight, and your enemy shall fall before you by the sword. Joshua 23:10, 1 man of you shall chase 1,000, for the Lord your God's he that fighteth for you, as he promised you. Let me get into something else right quick, and I'm going to quit. Have you heard about Operation Grim Beeper? Y'all heard of that? Surely you heard about them beepers, haven't you? You talk about technology. Their intelligence, their weapons, has put fear into the world. And what they fear the most, They got the great Satan. The United States got their back. September the 17th through the 18th, 2024, a series of explosions involving handheld pagers and walkie-talkies, all through the organization of Hezbollah, who had all them hundreds and thousands of missiles supplied to them by Iran. They occupied Lebanon and Syria, and that's why when Hamas did their deal October the 7th, 2023, while they're shooting at Israel, and Israel's trying to take care of them, that's when Hezbollah up there in Lebanon and Syria are shooting that back at the northern front and giving Israel all these problems. These devices, thousands and thousands of these pagers and these walkie-talkies, these devices were distributed by Hezbollah, found to have been modified with explosive devices, detonated simultaneously in an Israeli attack dubbed Operation Grim Reaper. I love it. The attacks resulted in numerous casualties, including both Hezbollah members and civilians. Thousands of pagers and walkie-talkies exploded in the hands of Hezbollah across Lebanon and Syria on these two separate days. The attack resulted in 42 deaths, including 12 civilians, but thousands and thousands of injuries. Fingers blowed off, ears blowed off. And an Israeli would rather have about a crippled soldier than a dead one. The devices were reportedly modified with explosive devices concealed within their batteries. Now, how smart's that? That you've got such technology, you put explosives in batteries, and you can make them all go off at the same time, hundreds of miles away. This ain't even a firefight. These devices concealed within their batteries, indicating a high degree of technological sophistication and suggestion state-sponsored involvement. The attack took 1,500 Hezbollah fighters out of action due to injuries, and including losing fingers, hands, eyes, as well as brain retinal. The incident was described as Hezbollah's biggest security breach since the start of the Israel-Hezbollah conflict, October 2, 2023. 7 months before the explosions in the walkie-talkies and in the pagers, Hezbollah Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah instructed the group members to use, pagers instead of cell phones, claiming Israel had infiltrated their cell phone network. The damn Jews knew that. You ain't going to outsmart them when God's giving them wisdom. They quit using cell phones, started using walkie-talkies and pagers. About 5 months before the explosion, Hezbollah purchased gold Apollo AR-924 pagers. Mossad, which is Israel, of course, intelligence agency, had secretly manufactured, integrated the explosions into the devices and sold them to Hezbollah through a shell company. Sold them at a good price. Hezbollah had no idea that Israel had made these pagers and these walkie-talkies. Nasrallah described the explosion as a major blow. 10 days later, after the device explosions, Israel killed Nasrallah in an airstrike in Beirut, Lebanon. On November 27, 2024, a ceasefire agreement between Israel and Lebanon went into effect. The dread and fear of Israel has gripped their enemies. God has struck fear in those Muslims. They got egg on their face. They are being humiliated before the world. After God drowned Pharaoh and his Egyptian army in the Red Sea, they sang the song of Moses. Be afraid, shall hear and be. Sarah shall take hold of the inhabitants of Philistia. Then the dukes of Edom shall be amazed. The mighty men of Moab trembling shall take hold upon them. All the inhabitants of Canaan shall melt away. Fear and dread shall fall upon them by the greatness of thine arm. They shall be as still as a stone till the people pass over. O Lord, till the people pass over, which thou hast prepared. The Lord shall reign forever and ever. That's after they went through the Red Sea. God struck the land of Canaan with fear. What did Rahab say when the spies went in? Israel missed God 38 years before because they feared the people of the land. But it's the people in the land had so much fear of them Jews. Or Israelites, they ain't Jews, the Babylonian captivity. In John, here's what Rahab said. She said unto the men, I know the Lord hath given you the land. Your terror is fallen upon us. All the inhabitants of the land, that's all 7 major nations, faint because of you. For we've heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did unto the 2 kings of the Amorites on the other side of Jordan, Sihon and Og, whom you utterly destroyed. As soon as we heard these things, our hearts did melt. Neither did there remain any courage in any man because of you. For the Lord your God, he's God in heaven above and earth beneath. The greatest man in the world is Donald Trump. The most feared man in the world is Donald Trump. There ain't another man like him. We ain't never had a president like him. God's raised him up. God's equipped him for these days to stand with the nation of Israel and to stand with the Christians of America and to stand with Americanism, nationalism. God's raised him up. But we got a man raised up by God, and the world shakes and trembles at him. Look at the G7. Look how Trump, President Trump, brings in the leaders of the world. Puts it on live TV before the world and shakes them down before God and everybody, like he did old Zelensky and like he did the Prime Minister of England. He ain't scared of none of them. He brings them in there and lets them have it before the American people. That's exactly right. Because we finally got a man that's America first. He's putting us first. He's putting the workers first. He'll do anything to avoid war. He's not a warmonger. He's a peacemaker. How many wars started when he was president the first time? None. There ain't none started now. They all started before he got there. He just got Pakistan and India to have peace with each other, and Congo and Rwanda to have peace with each other. Now he's working on Russia and on them Ukrainians, and I don't know what's going to happen there. The Operation Grim Beepers targeted, disrupted Hezbollah's operational capabilities by causing widespread disruption in their communication systems. Israel's aim was to cripple their command, control structure, and sow confusion within their ranks. I'm going to give you these quick things that did. Operation Grim Beeper. It was precise targeting and disruption. Each pager was individually detonated, allowing a targeted attack on key Hezbollah personnel. This demonstrated Israel's ability to identify individuals within the organization. What was Reagan's big thing? Peace through strength. What do you think Donald Trump's doing? Same thing. He don't want to fight nobody. He just wants to be strong. They're going to stay in their place. And Israel be so strong, ain't nobody going to mess with them. I guarantee you this world is going to reappraise their actions toward them. Then there was a psychological impact. A lot of times this is more powerful than a military victory when you defeat your enemy psychologically. This created widespread fear and mistrust regarding the communication devices of Hezbollah. If you're an Iranian soldier and you've seen how Khomeini, how Allah has failed you, how that so-called great power is nothing to them Jews, why would you want to go risk your life when you're just going to get killed? The disruption and uncertainty hampered their ability to coordinate and operate effectively. Intelligence gathering by analyzing the pagers and the attacks of the aftermath. That's when they gained a lot of that intelligence and took these people out. Israel gathered valuable intelligence about Hezbollah's organizational structure and communication networks. Number 4, then there was a demonstration of Israel's capabilities. Listen, they're just showing off. If you can kill these people, injure 1,500, find out where their brass is. Officers take them out. With a pager and a walkie-talkie. What can you do with real weapons? Operation Grim Beeper showcases Israel's advanced intelligence, technological capabilities, serving as a deterrent against Hezbollah aggression. Think of the planning and the logistics this will take. They've been planning this war right here for years. Think about the logistics that this has taken. Think about the logistics of the B-2 bomber and the GBU-57. 30,000-pound bombs, 15 tons. They're talking about the difficulty of that and all the expertise that it took. Trump's doing that thing. Hey, wasn't even 10 people in the whole United States even knew what he is doing. You know why? Because you can't trust these bunch of politicians. They'd get on the phone and tell Iran. The Israelis thoroughly mapped Hezbollah's supply chain. When you find out where the supply chain is, Brother Joe, you can cut it off. When you cut the supply chain off, you cut their food off, you cut their weapons off, you've cut them off. Then they invented a spatial explosive charge, small enough to be inserted inside a handheld device, so sophisticated enough to be remotely activated, yet big enough to do real harm, and yet so prominent, or not so prominent physically or electronically to even draw attention to itself. They just thought they had a pager. Opened it up, there's batteries. They just thought they had a walkie-talkie. Opened it up, there's batteries. They ain't no indication what's going on in there. The Israelis turned themselves into a big enough link in Hezbollah's procurement network to take physical control of the devices and to rig them and sell them to them. They activated the charges simultaneously, covered a very wide geographical area. The exploding devices maimed a multitude of people. And with clean kills and clean attacks, not one Israeli is even hurt during this. Hezbollah worked hand in glove with Russia, Iran, Assad regime, and China's in the middle of all that mess to flatten many large cities of Syria. The psychological damage to Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, psychological fear struck in the heart of them Iranians. They know their goose has been cooked. And we need to job. And America will stand there. You know what Israel like? They like being in a boxing ring. They just beating the daylights out of somebody. And this guy getting his head beat in, he got a bunch of buddies over here, but they ain't going to move because this man beating the daylights out of this guy. He got a big brother over here. America's standing there. Oh, yeah. We're standing right there in that ring, letting Israel go Billy Bad on the enemy. It's God. I don't see why an atheist can't say that. This ain't normal. This ain't even humanly possible. What's happened? To do all this strategically at the same time. If they had not got in there, set up these drones, taken out their Air Force, taken out their 70 defense systems, Israel no doubt would have won, but they'd have lost a lot of people. How long can you survive? And by the way, every time, listen to this, every time that Israel shoots out of the sky, probably a $20,000 weapon, every time they shoot one of them missiles out of the sky, it costs them $2 million. All that defense, if they shot off 3,000 to protect their people, multiply that by $2 million. Think about that. That's a pile of money. And it's costing them. Ever since 1979, when those mullahs and old Khomeini, that one served for 30 years, 30-some years. When they took over, listen, folks, those Iranians were very intelligent people. And they were great in business. They were great in a whole lot of areas. And that bunch over there is right. Brother Terry, I want to try to find out if I can. I don't know if anybody's calculated to build them nuclear sites, hundreds of feet in the ground, with all that concrete and all the money to build centrifuges and all that money that they've spent on that nuclear system, billions and billions and billions of dollars. And in less than 2 weeks, Israel bloated up in smoke. Amen. Does that excite y'all? I'm glad I'm on the side of the God of Israel. Let's stand to our feet. You want to come and pray, you can. Let's just pray that God gives